So welcome everybody. My name's Steph Unthank, and I run a company called Infinity Wellness. And this is my colleague, my friend, Bridget Sunman, and we've decided to come together to record some video casts. So a little bit like, I guess, podcasts, but video casts. And the reason we've decided to do that is because both of us are professionals within the space of wellbeing, but we also have a really similar background. So we both worked in a corporate landscape for quite a number of years. And bizarrely, when we met, which was in a very strange circumstances, we also found out that both of us have some really good understanding, all-round understanding, let's say, of culture change and wellbeing culture. So we've come together to offer these video casts to you, and we're looking forward to getting you involved and having some conversations between us too around the topic of mind and body. And we call ourselves the Mind Body Connective. So I'm Steph and this is Bridget. Bridget, would you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So it has been a really exciting journey already, as Steph says, the way we met and just this opportunity to collaborate together. We're really excited about that. My name is Bridget Sunman. I run a company called Be Active for Change. I'm a wellbeing mentor, I'm a personal coach, and I'm a yoga teacher. And as Steph says, background in corporate, so done a lot of work with change and transition, communications, and also really working in the wellbeing space now. So really interested in this Mind Body Collective that we're bringing to you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Bridget. So yeah, we're going to kick off this first episode today with just starting to explore the mind. I think, you know, we all know that in this kind of prolonged period of uncertainty, before COVID, mental health and the subject of mental health was really kind of out there, wasn't it, in terms of kind of public discussion. Also, you know, the amount of support that seems to be coming out in terms of whether it's government support or maybe celebrities talking about their own mental health and really trying to get the conversation to come to life around mental health and mental ill health particularly, and how, you know, we can support ourselves better. And in the work that I do, I deal with a lot of corporates, a lot of businesses of all sizes and shapes, all over Europe actually, delivering wellbeing strategies, designing wellbeing strategies, and implementing those wellbeing strategies. And fundamentally, they tend to focus first around mind, mindset, and mind health. So we thought we'd start today with this first video cast talking about the mind. And when I was thinking about the content for this session, Bridget, one of the things that really struck me is how people maybe perceive their mind, if that makes sense. So how do they see it? How do they understand it? And the question that came to my mind was, what is the mind?
Yeah, I think that's a really fascinating question. And for me, what springs into my mind is and sort of the brain and where's the connection between the two, because, you know, we get stuck in our mind, but we also think about our brain. And so for me, I think it's that the brain is a physical organ, and that the mind is where it sort of resides in the brain, but it's our emotions, it's our intelligence, it can be our thinking, it can be determination, it can be all sorts of things. And I think we can get stuck in our mind. I know sometimes that's one of the things that I found sometimes with the work that I was doing. You could get really stuck in your mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I think I'm very simplistic in my views, and you know, when I'm talking to the public, when I'm talking to companies, or even working with individuals, you know, I don't think there's any need to overcomplicate things. You know, life's complicated enough, isn't it? Let's face it. But I think, yeah, I would agree. I think the thing about the mind is it isn't the brain. You know, when we think about the brain is a physical organ. You know, it's part of our body. It's a physical organ. But the mind, you can't see it. You can't touch it, right? So when I think about the mind, I kind of think about it in a really similar way to you. You know, if the mind isn't the brain, then what is it? And I conclude that the mind is about awareness. So it's about our ability to be aware. That's the mind. So aware of what is going on. Because if we think about the mind, what's the mind always doing unless we're asleep? It's thinking. So it's in a thinking mode. So it's either thinking about the past, it's in the present, in the thing that we're doing right now, like I am now, or it's thinking maybe about the future. And in that thinking, the real kind of, I guess the pivotal moment of understanding the mind and the way that the mind works for me is to describe it as awareness of consciousness. And then I'll go a little bit deeper. I start to go down this rabbit hole of awareness of what, and I conclude again that I think it's awareness of time, and that relates to this thinking mode of either being in the past, being in the current, or being in the future, because they're the only three places we tend to be. So let me just go through that again. If the mind isn't the brain, then what is the mind? The mind is awareness, but awareness of what? Awareness of time, because it's the one thing. Time is the one thing that we have, I guess, a complete relationship with. So if when we're in our thinking brains, we're either thinking in the past, we're in the current state, or we're in the future. I don't know, what are your thoughts of that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me, and that also sort of probably helps me with this feeling of stuckness, because I think it's when we lose track of time.
Yeah.
So we sort of, you know, get into this automatic mode, this just sort of doing it because we're doing it and not really thinking about what we're doing. And I think sometimes that can be a positive, because we need that focus, we need that sort of determination to keep going with something, but that can also trap us. And I think we, you know, saying back to this getting stuck, sort of running on automatic. So I think the time thing's really, really appropriate for that. Really helps me understand that. Yeah.
I can see that. I can see how that would correlate, because I think this piece around time and awareness. What's the opposite of awareness? Well, it's being unaware, right?
Yeah.
So if we're not aware, we're being unaware. If we're not conscious, then we're unconscious. And I actually love what you've just talked about there in terms of this automatic, this stuckness. And it kind of brings me to a place of, you know, I think that if we're unconscious and we're unaware, then we are going to be working on what I might describe as an automatic pilot, right? So autopilot, where we're just going through the motions of each day, not even moment by moment, but kind of very much based on kind of an automatic pilot approach to life, where we're just drifting and doing stuff by habit. So there's no real attention to what's going on. I mean, that sense of automatic pilot, Bridget, is that the kind of thing that you're alluding to there?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think, you know, automatic pilots are great when you think of them in the real world, because they help sort of ships and planes and spacecraft to you know, take some of the legwork out of life, but they can't be used for landing, and they certainly are not used on takeoff. That's when you need real focus, real attention. So I think it's not sort of saying that autopilot is bad, you know, we and habits aren't bad per se. I think it's getting into a stuck habit and noticing that can bring a real different quality to our life. I think that's what I'm hearing you say. That's what it means to me, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years of my life, I've really been kind of getting under the detail, getting under the skin of, how do you feel as a human being, right? How does it actually make you feel to move away from being on autopilot and move more towards conscious living, you know, living in a state of whole awareness. And when I use the word feel, what I mean by that is feel from a place of our whole experience as a human being. So not necessarily feel in terms of I feel good, right? Or I feel happy, or I feel joyous, but feeling in terms of if I'm living in a more conscious, aware, a conscious state of awareness, let's say, what do I notice more about how I feel in my body? And I know that we're going to come on, aren't we, about, you know, we're going to talk together about body to that later on. And I think there will be some real crossover, and some of this conversation we'll have, I think there's going to be some real points of where it knits together quite nicely. But yeah, so I think there's this piece around if we're in a state of consciousness where we have total awareness of what is going on in our lives, moment to moment, which is the important part, moment to moment, and I'll come back to why on that in a second. We do have a better chance, I think, and a heightened sense of awareness in terms of the experience we have in our bodies, the experience we have in our thoughts, and then the experience we have in our emotions, or what I sometimes like to call my heart, right, my emotional center. And I think that the thing that's really important about that is that if you think about how that feels, right, to really know what's going on in my body, how does my body feel in this moment, to really be in tune with my thinking and to really be in tune with my emotions, we are moving, really we are moving away from being an autopilot. When we're in autopilot, we just miss so much stuff. We miss the good because we just don't pay attention to it at all. And it just kind of passes us by. Some of the small things in life that, we would maybe, if we just paid attention for a moment, regard as quite pleasant. Some of those things just pass us by. Actually, a lot of those things, if not all of those things, pass us by. I'm being a bit gentle on that. It's not just some, it's probably all of them just pass us by. But equally, it's not always just about the pleasant as well. It's about noticing the unpleasant and actually really sensing into how that feels to carry that, because by noticing it and sensing in how it feels to carry it, we can deal with it a lot better. Because I think that autopilot does a couple of things. It really stops us from seeing the good around us, the really small things that we can take pleasure from. But autopilot also, I think, doesn't do us any favors, because it kind of it makes us turn our backs on a lot of the things that are causing us trouble rather than dealing with it, because we just kind of go, I'll just put that over there, I'll deal with that later, I've got other things that I need to be doing, they're much more important. So we turn our backs on stuff, and actually when we turn our backs on stuff that needs to be dealt with, that just builds up, causes us more stress, causes more anxiety, causes us more problems longer term. So I think there's so much, isn't there? I mean, this subject of mind and awareness is just going to, I'm sure that it's going to really spark, and our conversations will get deeper in terms of what awareness really means, and that real kind of heightened state of consciousness.
Yeah, I think for me, just to sort of maybe summarize what you're saying means for me, I think it's about sort of living rather than existing.
Yeah.
I think, that autopilot means we're just existing, whereas we can actually really live if we create the awareness and the attention around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, that phrase, living rather than existing, I want to pause on that for a moment. And I'll tell you why, because I think the phrase living rather than existing in this very modern, fortunate Western society that we live in can be interpreted as living, right? Living for the moment, doing all those things that people see as amazing feats of life, like, I'm living because I've managed to buy myself that flash car.
Yeah.
Or I'm living because I finally got that promotion, or I'm living because I got that really big holiday and I can't wait to go on that big holiday, or I'm living because, I got that big house that I wanted. And I wanted to pause on that, because I think living and existing is very different for different people in terms of the way that they interpret that. But what we're talking about here, right, is living rather than existing, is just very simply about living out of autopilot, having that heightened state of conscious awareness and really tuning in to who you are as a human being, mind, body, and emotions, and not about that materialistic, I guess, adventure that we think we need to be on all of the time.
Yeah, I think that's a really important clarification. And I think, different people watching this, living will be different for them, but I think that's really captured it beautifully.
Yeah. And that's not to say that there's any right or wrong in that, or any good or bad. I'm not judging, and I'm really not. I just want to, have some clarity around, this is about sensing into who we are as human beings, who we are as individuals, and just digging a bit deeper into that conscious state of awareness. Yeah, lovely. Good. Well, that was a really good start for a first chat, Bridget. And
we've got lots to go at, lots of content to go at that we're really passionate about.
We've got a lot of content to go on. Sorry, we've got a lot of content to go on. And I'm sitting here thinking that this conversation around awareness and consciousness could probably go like that now, and we could still be talking about this in a couple of hours' time. But obviously we want to give our viewers some bite-sized chunks, some stuff that they can take away and just kind of digest a bit, and maybe comment on, join in the discussion, and let us know how they feel about this content and listening to some of these video casts.
Definitely. I'd love to hear their views on the autopilot and what gets them into autopilot, and maybe what gets them out of it, and see whether some of the things we're going to say are similar or whether they're different. Yeah,
I think that would be marvelous. What a great idea. So yeah, do share your views, do share your stories about, when you've noticed that you've been on autopilot, and maybe tell us what, and then some of you've done to take yourself out of autopilot and to be more with your whole experience as a human being. And it'd be really, really great to hear some of that stuff and to get the conversation moving a bit more on this, particularly at the moment where there is so much focus around our mind health and some of the things that we can all do to support ourselves right now. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Bridget. Look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Until the next time.
Until the next time.